Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In today's video, we're going to be discussing markets, profit, and what exactly I'm doing in Dragonflight to make gold. I know a ton of people are struggling with actually making gold and calculating profit in Dragonflight. I was right there with you, so I want this video to show you my process of how I actually make gold, show you my specialization trees, and lastly, just show you the actual items I'm crafting. Now, this video may or may not be long. I am warning you just in case it is, and there will be multiple parts. Up first, I'm going to show you some actual calculations. I'm going to actually show you an add-on to help you, and lastly, I'm going to give you the full suggestions. So bear with me, this might start off slow, but hopefully this will be super helpful. But everybody, as always, thank you so much for watching, and let's get into it. And so, for the sake of this video, I have turned off my auction sound since we are selling a lot of items, but these items right here is a good indicator of the types of items I'm selling. And what I've been doing in Dragonflight personally has been focusing on reagents and region-wide items. And so the first reason for that is actually due to my server size. I am on a medium pop server, and not only is it a medium pop, we also are pretty casual in terms of our player base. Meaning, even if there is a really best in slot armor piece that a lot of people are requesting on the bigger servers like Addon or Area 52, there is definitely a lesser chance of me getting all of those sales on this server. So I like to simplify everything and focus more on the region-wide markets for a lot more sales. Also, just in general, even if you are on one of those fuller or higher pop servers, there is just not a lot of demand right now for the work order system. Besides the Elemental Lariat, which is a crafted neck piece, nobody really wants crafted gear, or if they do, it's a small handful of each type. So there's just not really a solid or guaranteed way to make gold if you spec into armor, weapons, etc. So you will see a very common trend of everything that I'm selling are reagents. This is awesome because that means, despite whatever server you are on, you should have the same sort of experience, but of course it may still vary versus NA, EU, etc. And so I want to start with actually an example, and this is going to be our cheaper, more beginner example in today's video, and this is going to be with enchanting. So we have enchanting pulled up, and I will just kind of talk about this system. I've mentioned it before, but I am heavily relying on skill as well as inspiration. So I'll give you a rundown of my stats real quick. I have maxed out my enchanting. I am a blood elf, so I have a racial of +5, and then I have all 3 blue items. I've put a quality 2 inspiration enchant on this item, but that's really it. And if we want to look at my specialization trees, I currently have this, which the important part right here is this inspiration tree maxed out. I have 13 points into just generic skill. Because I'm maxed out, I do have the insight of the blue unlocked, but I haven't really done anything with it. And then lastly, the bulk of my points are right here in enchantment. And so, you can look right here. Now, I will 100% say that this is not the most optimized build. You will see in a later example how my builds are not optimized at all, but I think this is a great point because even without a perfect tree, there is still gold to be made. But with that being said, let's get into our first example. And what I'm doing with literally every single enchant is I am hoping for quality 3 procs. So right here, I have a calculated example using Devotion of Speed, and as you can see right now, I can only guarantee a quality 2. However, due to my high inspiration, not only do I have a 30% chance of proccing, but I will gain 213 skill. You add that together, 213 plus 290, and I'm definitely overreaching that 425. So I'm good to go. And so what this example is that I just find an enchant that has a decent quality 3 value, and I craft it. So for today's video, we're going to use this enchantment. And so if we look it up, by the way, this add-on right here is called Auctionator. The name's right here. I've covered it in a previous video, but right here, as you can see, the quality 3 is going for about 1200 gold. Now the quality 2 is only going for 40. My crafting cost is about 172, so automatically, I'm losing a ton of gold by crafting 2s. However, every time I proc, a 3, I'm making a huge amount of gold and my crafting cost is only 172. And so I have calculated this. Now keep in mind, prices have changed slightly. Crafting cost has actually gone down, which is great, but in this case, I crafted 200 of these items, which means I needed 1,000 dust as well as 800 shards, and it costed me about 40,500 gold. Now, of course, I said this was like for beginners and a cheaper method, but keep in mind, I crafted 200. If you can't afford, about 41,000 gold in materials, you can break this down into only 100 crafts, and you're only spending about 20,000. But this is kind of just our cheaper example. And so I'll put the, video on screen of me crafting, but at the end of this, with my 30% inspiration, I was granted 62 quality 3s and 138 quality 2s. Now, due to my resourcefulness, I was able to save enough materials for about 6 more enchants, but I did not count those towards the total. And so with that, remember I spent about 41,000 gold, and I procced 62 enchants, which is pretty good. That is basically almost exactly my proc chance. I had a 30% inspiration proc. I was supposed to only get 60, and I got 62, which is pretty good. And so with the current prices that these were going for, if we take that 62 and we times it by the 1,200, that equals out to about 74,500 gold. And immediately, remember, we only spent about 41,000, so right there we have made profit. Now, of course, the 138, nothing exciting, but timesing that by about 40, that's about 5,600 gold as well. So obviously losing gold right there, but adding that together, we have 80,048 gold. Now, of course, there's a 5% auction house cut, and so if we take that away, we are left with 76,000 gold worth of items. Meaning, if we sell everything at the current prices, we have 76,000 gold in our pocket, we take away our initial investment, and we have made 35,500 gold profit. And so I did that right before recording this video, and if we look into my auctions, as you can see, they have been selling. So all the quality 2s, I still have about 70 of them left, but they're selling for about that 40,000, and then we have all those quality 3s, which I have 11 left, and they're selling for about 1,200. So they sell pretty fast. Of course, you get undercut pretty fast, so you need to kind of stay on top of it. But with that being said, as long as everything continues to go to plan, which it has, that's an easy 35k profit. You're almost doubling your money through this method. Now, you can do this with every single enchant. So right here, if we grab resourcefulness or the avoidance, if we take a look, crafting cost is 164 and it's selling for about 750. So of course the margins aren't going to be as good, but the same, structure applies. A lot of these items have basically the same crafting cost, right? If we did the devotion of speed, we can pick the leech, which will have the exact same crafting cost. However, the quality 3 is only going for 850. So of course, depending on the item you pick, the amount of profit you get is a little bit different, but this is exactly how you make gold in Dragonflight. And so yeah, to kind of sum it up, what I recommend doing is trying to get your skill as high as possible, because if you get your skill to be able to craft a rank 2, and you max out your inspiration, which is going to cost you about, 35 points or so, because you have to spec into this tree and then this one, it actually might cost 40 for enchants, it depends on the profession, but in this case, it's pretty simple to set up, and you just want to go for skill and inspiration. And so we're going to move on to our second example to just show you how this works in multiple cases. And this one is going to be kind of our high spender, more expensive one. Beginners will likely not be able to do this exact version, but it just shows you that this works with all items. And this is with tailoring and the blue silken lining. And so this is the item right here, and this is actually a embellishment optional reagent that people can apply to their gear to get a specific stat. And so like always, the quality 3s are going for a ton of gold, while the quality 2s not so much. And so obviously you can see right here the quality 3 is going for about 16,000 gold, and the quality 2s and 1s are going for about 100. Our average crafting cost is about 3k, so obviously there is a big loss for the non-rank 3s. However, with the actual rank 3s, it's a lot more valuable. And so for the same example, I actually crafted 150. So I did not craft 200, I crafted 150. And at the current time of purchasing all those items, it cost me 448,000 gold. Now I also purchased an incense to increase my inspiration, so that costed me another 500 gold, but that's barely anything. But to make this easier, you could round up to just like 450k if you want to keep numbers simple. And so after crafting those 150 items, I was left with 39 quality 3s and 125 quality 2s. Now you're probably asking yourself, okay, that doesn't actually add up to 150, and that is because of multi-craft. I can actually proc additional items, and of course resourcefulness allowing me to craft more. So in this case, we actually ended up with a little bit over 150, but all of that came from the, initial materials. And so at the time of actually recording, the price of the linen has gone down slightly. As you can see, somebody has undercut quite profusely. I was selling these at 19,000, and that is what this profit is calculated, but we can do some quick math to see how it's adjusted in just 1 second. But with those 39 crafts currently going for 19k, that would grant us 741,000 gold. So already profit right there, and then with the 125 low qualities, that's about 15k. So at those current margins, that would be 755,000 gold. Now, of course, the price has dropped, so if we do that new calculation, there's 39, and if we times it by 16,000, that still leaves us with 624k. So we lost about 120k for that cut. However, even with that being said, our initial profit was about 270,000 gold, so with that price cut in mind, we're still making about, over 100k profit if I end up selling these for 16k. I can either wait until they go back up, or I can say, the 100k profit is fine with me and continue to sell them. It's really no right or wrong answer, but yet again, these inspiration sort of crafts are amazing. Now, in terms of my specialization builds, this is a very good example of me not having an optimized build at all. My first mistake was I put 25 points into garment crafting. I should not have done this at all. I should have used those 25 points into other things. Also, I do cooldowns on this character, so I have about 35 points into here. Once again, if I was really sticking to the reagent route, I probably should have used these in another case, but this is what I have for cooldowns. In terms of textiles, I have about 45 points here. Unlocking all the trees, and I went into weaving just because I was doing those cooldowns. But the bulk of the important points for this exact, crafting session is in mastery. And so I have mastery fully fletched out so I can have all of the skill points possible, and I have 25 out of the 30 inspiration. So right here, I could have done this a lot differently, especially if I didn't quote-unquote waste points into other categories, but even with this semi-optimal build, I'm getting plenty of skill, plenty of inspiration to make this a worthwhile craft. And so you're probably wondering, alright Penguin, this is nice, but how do I calculate this for myself, right? There's always math you can do, but is there any simple way? And so this is where I want to highlight a quick add-on. And it is called Craft Sim, and it is pretty new. Here we go, let me enable it. But this add-on is pretty cool as it kind of takes, the math that we do here, but it puts it in game and just gives you an average right up front. Now, as a quick disclaimer, I will always warn you that these add-ons are not perfect, and this is not going to be a full tutorial since this add-on can get a little complicated, but I just want to show you, in our case use. And so if we pull it up, automatically you will see a few options, and the one I want to highlight is this average profit. So if we go over to that devotion of speed, which was what we were crafting, as you can see, CraftSim is saying, hey, every time you craft this, you're going to have an average profit of 164 gold. Now, you're probably saying, okay, how are they getting this number? And if you click on this, it will explain it to you. But basically, it's taking your procs, inspiration, resourcefulness, etc., and calculating, on average, if you craft a bunch of these items, what are you going to get? And so to bring you back to that first example, remember we crafted 200 items for 35.5k profit. If we take that 35.5k profit and divide it by 200, we get an average profit of 177. So right here, the average profit is 164, but that is not that far off. And actually, it is underestimating instead of overestimating, which is always good in the standpoint of, if prices drop, stuff like that. But yeah. And so, there's cost overviews. As you can see, every time you craft a quality 2, you are losing 175 gold, or 71. However, every time you proc a quality 3, you are actually profiting 930 gold. And so a big thing to remember about this is that it is an average. Of course, if I sit here and craft one singular item, who knows, maybe I will get lucky. But yeah, right? Like, obviously, my average profit for a single craft is, I just lost 170 gold. So you can't really take this as a profit per item. I would say a safe thing is crafting like 100 crafts at a time. But you have to do it in bulk. You can't just craft 3 items and expect profit. And so if we compare this to the tailoring one as well, as you can see, it's still calculating that quality 3 at 19k. So our original, thing, not the fact that it's been undercut by about 3k. But every time we craft, if we get a quality 2, we're losing basically all of our gold. But if we proc a quality 3, we're making a ton. And so CraftSim is saying, hey, on average, we'll make about 1,400 gold profit. And so if we take our initial calculated profit, divide it by the 150 crafts, our average profit was about 1,700 gold, about 1,700 to 1,800 gold. So once again, this is on the lower side, which is great. I always would like the estimate to be on the lower side instead of too high. If RNG goes bad, then of course the profit could be a lot less, but in our cases, we had pretty good RNG, so our profit was pretty good. Once again, there is a lot with this add-on that you can look into, but I just wanted to highlight this as a thing to look at. You can look at all of the different items, see, what sort of profit there is, and if there's any sort of profit that looks interesting to you, you can try to craft it yourself. But you can obviously see, right now, this is probably the best choice, but also it requires a lot of gold to invest into. And so yeah, that is kind of our examples that I have for today's video, as well as the add-on, but I do want to kind of throw different ideas at you if you're following the same sort of process. So for enchants, I'm crafting literally any enchant that's profitable, so enchants is covered by just basically everything. In terms of tailoring, besides the reagents, I'm also crafting a ton of bags. Even though bags are actually server side, and they normally sell for pretty cheap, crafting cost is ridiculously cheap as well. I could craft bags for like less than 60 gold a piece, and I can sell them for 175 plus gold. Of course, that doesn't seem like a ton, but that margin is huge, and you sell a ton every day. So definitely don't forget about the basic bags, and of course you have the renowned bags if you have them unlocked as well. Then in total, cooking is doing spectacular. I love cooking. I have a full video dedicated to that, which I will have linked in the description, but I'll put some examples on screen. In terms of leatherworking, I'm crafting a ton of the elemental reagents, like the Earthshine scales, as well as Fang adornments. Normally what I do is I craft the Earthshine, and then I sell the quality 3, and then I use the quality 2 towards the Fangs. In terms of inscription, I'm selling runed wraithbark, the same thing, quality 3s, quality 2s, as well as weapon runes. Normally what I do is I mill a ton of stuff and craft a ton of chilled runes. Then the quality 3 chilled runes that I get, I will sell directly to the auction house, and then I will use the quality 2 runes, half of them towards weapon runes, and half of them towards the runed wraithbark. It's a little bit more of a complicated scenario, but it's the same process as before, you're just doing multiple intermediate steps. Then lastly, I know this one has been talked about a lot, but leatherworking, tailoring, blacksmithing, jewel crafting, and even inscription now, about 2 weeks ago inscription items were added, has the PvP combatant gear. Now, not only does this make decent gold, especially if you're on a medium pop server, it is super easy knowledge points and metal. If you can buy the recipes for 5k a piece, maybe they're selling for a complete loss, and the items are awful, but just learning them and crafting them once I think is well worth it for the easy first time craft bonus. If you guys want to know about the inscription pieces and how to get them, I will have a short linked below that I uploaded a few days ago. But yeah guys, that is it for today's video. I hope this kind of makes sense. I'll throw some pictures of my mailboxes if I can up on screen. And yeah, that's how I've been making gold, basically using procs, using inspiration, and selling those highly, highly sought after items. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you are doing to make gold, and have a good day.